Hi everyone, it's Kevin at Bear Creek. Pardon me, sun's right in my eyes here, but kind of the best location. It's Thursday, December 10th, 2020. An unusually balmy December day. It's 45 degrees. All my bees are out flying around, probably in search of water today. I don't really like days like this. I don't like my bees to be getting out because what ends up happening is the sun drops very quick and then they get trapped and die, and so I lose some of my force. But you can't help Mother Nature. She's a fickle bitch. Today what I got, you know I like my winter projects. Funny thing, I filmed all this down in my basement a couple days ago, and didn't turn out quite like I wanted it to. Kind of dingy lighting, dingy background, so kind of wanted to do this over again. So this is take two. I'm cutting this video into two parts. First part is I want to show you my new project here, mini mating nukes that I'm making. And then the second part will be the fabrication of the mini mating nukes. So earlier this month I went on to Man Lake and ordered some mini mating nukes. They wanted a half a dozen of them or so to have around, and they came in, and this is pretty much what it boils down to. I painted them up, but what it boils down to, they got 3 frames, a syrup reservoir or fondant, whatever you want, a separation between the brood box and your syrup with a queen excluder. That's how they separate the two. And then you got a front entrance, and then during transport, this slides down right here, and it's open vented. So nice little compact little thing for raising queens. Downside to this is it can get plugged up pretty quick, and the bees can abscond or swarm on you. So this is something you get the queen laying, take the queen out and use her right away, either selling her or putting her in, when you're requeening another hive. This works awesome for that. Now I have the 2-frame mating nukes. You've seen that. I've got about 21 of them, and I think they work fantastic. They're full frame, deep mating nukes, and they're so interchangeable. I can pull out both frames, stick them in a 5-frame nuke, and let the bees expand, and without too much fuss or muss. This is not the case with this. This is for essentially, like I said, either requeening one of your colonies or selling your queens, your mated queens. Another benefit to these little mating nukes over the 2-framers, the 2-framers are a little tall and a little tippy. They don't stack well, for when you're transporting them or whatever. So if you wanted to, let's say, put queen cells in and take them over to a friend's apiary and get him mated with his drones, they don't, like I said, they don't real transport well. These, throw a couple bees in, put them in here. You have your vent. Put them in the back of your pickup truck or your back seat or whatever. Haul them 30 miles over to your friend's apiary or wherever it's at. Set them down, open it up, and away you go. Very, very easy to transport these from apiary to apiary, which is something that attracted me to them. So I got a half a dozen of them, and it's good to have diversity, and if all your equipment is the same, well, you're limited. So it's good to change things up just a little bit and have options. Having options is good. That said, a few days after I bought these, I was digging around my brother's garage, and he gets medicine shipped to him once a month. And he had all these styrofoam containers right here that the medicine got shipped in, and I was taking a look at them, and I said, my goodness, I said, that's about the size of a mini mating nuke. I said, I bet you I could make something out of that. And he had about 30 of them. Now, I don't really need 30 of them. I culled out about 4 of them, and or 6 of them, because they were damaged or whatever. Mice got to them, whatever. But I ended up with about 24. So I started, thinking about it, designing what I was going to do and how I was going to attack it. And I really did. I used the Man Lake kind of as a model, with a reservoir in the back, frames in the front. There's some intricacies with this Man Lake, with this sliding styrofoam front. Actually, as soon as this paint dries, it'll be less sticky. And then Man Lake also has an option in the bottom. You can slide this out and dump your bees in there. It takes about a cup of bees for these units. So I wanted to kind of model it after this, because this is kind of a proven system. University of Gulf used this, and a lot of people use these. It's very popular for mating nukes. They have its downsides, but it has its upsides too. So, as that is a template, I went about. First of all, I had to go find a reservoir that would fit this, that would hold syrup, because this is all pre-molded, and so it has a backboard that's all molded right into it, so the syrup won't leak all over the place. Well, I don't have that option for these little medical containers. Let's see if I got one that doesn't have anything in it. I think this one is. Yeah, this one. Okay, so I already had the frame rest installed in this one, but you can see, it's just a square box. It's about 8 inches by 6 inches, which is a little bit bigger, obviously you can tell, than the Man Lake one. That's a little bit wider, and it's just a hair longer. So, first thing I did was installed frame rests in, dropped them in about 7/16 of an inch, because that's about the size of the frame. Man Lake frames are 7/8 of an inch wide and about 7/16 inch deep. The only thing I could find is a piece of shelving board at Lowe's that was 1 inch. And so what I did was I bought that. It was $10, and I made strips, 7/16 inch strips out of that. And that was how I made my frames. You can kind of see, there's my frames that I made. Another thing, after I made my frames, I cut a center groove in it so that I could put a starter strip. I can put glue a bamboo strip in here and just rub some beeswax on it. So that would act as a starter strip for the bees to go. I use wedges actually on my regular nukes, and I just rub a little bit of beeswax on there. I don't have to melt anything, just rub it on there, and the bees take off and they go with it. So that was my premise for that. I also ended up cutting grooves on the sides, because as I put these in, I started thinking about, the bees might attach the comb to the sidewalls, and I'd rather not fight trying to get these out. So I cut grooves in there, and then I found, it was kind of by accident, there happened to be a paint stirrer stick laying right next to my bench, and I grabbed it, and I looked at it, and I said, that's about the width of a blade. So I went to Lowe's and I bought packs of 10, and I cut them into thirds. So I got 30 sides per pack, and 2 per frame, so that's about 15 frames. Now I have, unlike the Man Lake that has 3 frames, I can fit 4 in mine just because of its overall length. Plus mine are a little bit wider. So I used these paint sticks, and they made excellent inside frames. So that's, and I'll show this all in part 2 as to how I made all this. The reservoir was the first thing. The syrup reservoir. I searched all over to try to find, you know, what would fit. Obviously, this is wider than the Man Lake one. So what am I going to use for a syrup reservoir? Well, one of my friends, Wayne, thanks Wayne, was searching on Man Lake, and he came across these. And these are liners, actually, for the Man Lake feeders. I'm going to guess that just in case, you know, the backboard breaks or, you know, you get a hole in it, so you don't have syrup leaking all over, they made these little liners that fit right in the back there. You don't have to have them if your syrup reservoir is good, but the liners are just slide right in and work great. So I went and bought 30 of these, or 24 of them. No, I bought 30. And that slides actually right in the back here. But as you can see that there's a lot of room. So I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to leave all the room on one side so that I can put a shelf and a pollen patty there, or do it in the middle. That's something that I'm still debating on. Now the next aspect of that, this is called brown board. I had this sitting in the garage, big sheet of it, and it's 1/8 of an inch, and it works really well. It's very hard board. It's not plywood. It's like a fiber board. It's very, very inexpensive. But I ended up cutting strips in, and I use this as actually my back wall here. I just take that, I slide that right behind my frame rest. Actually, I sort of have to put this all in at one time. There we go. There we go. All right. And then this goes in just like that. All right. Now, one of the things about this backboard is Man Lake has this little queen excluder to separate the brood box from the syrup, so the queen can't go in and start laying, because they will build comb in this when it runs out of syrup. They'll start building comb in it. So in order to stop the queen from going in there and laying, they use a queen excluder to stop her. Well, I had to do the same thing. I had plastic queen excluder. I had it cut in half for one of my nucleus colonies, and I had a remnant left over. So I took it, cut little strips out, and let me show you here. And I just glued it to the back of this brown board here. I notched the brown board. That was kind of a tricky little thing to notch it out. Took a while to do that. And then I just used Titebond glue, and I just glued it in place. Hopefully that's enough. They only need 2 spaces to get in, but that's how that works. So now I solved my issue with my feeder and separating my my brood box from my syrup reservoir, or my feed reservoir. Had to go to work again, like I said, on my frames. These took forever. I had to end up, I didn't need 120 of them, but I probably made about 100 of them, I would guess. So each part of this, obviously cutting them into strips, cutting a groove, center groove in there, cutting side grooves in them, gluing all the side rails in. Then the next aspect was, if you notice here, I'll show you. Man Lake has frame rests in here, so you can't slide these apart or slide them together. So what they ended up doing was they grooved the frames so that, number one, you can reach in and grab these a lot easier, I'm going to guess. Number two, a cell will slide in there and fit right in there. I wonder if this one works a little bit better. Yeah, that one works like that. So, you know, because if these were straight, the cell would not be able to fit in there. So they grooved it so that you're able to slide a JZBZ cell in there with a cell protector. in between the frames because you can't, like I said, separate or slam the frames shut. I wasn't going to go with frame spacers, but I found that you know, when you're transporting them, these things got really loose, and they kind of moved around and made kittywampus frames. And if I don't notice it right away, the bees will start building some wonky combs. So I wanted to avoid that. So I did end up installing frame spacers in, and all I did was use the number 6 nuts. Actually made the perfect spacers, and I'll show you that in a second here. But here is what my final nuke looks like right here, mating nuke. If you can see that. We have the reservoir. Now I can slide this over. I'm going to fill this with expandable foam, either on both sides or on one side, but I figure if I slide it over to one side, I could foam it, and then I had a spot to lay a piece of pollen patty down. I also went and indented with a drum sander all the frames. That took an hour and a half or so to do that. Again, you can probably look, you can see where I glued little nuts in there. I also sanded the ends of the bars so it fit between the nuts a little looser, you know, so that it's not so hard to remove them. But that ended up making nice spaces in between. Hopefully I can still get a cell in between with these indents in here. For the pull this out. For the entrance, I went with a pinwheel. Okay, I used a number 6 bolt. It's probably 1 3/4, but all they had was 2-inch, so I bought 2-inch bolts, and then a number 6 nut, and actually I bought a larger washer because this foam right here is it's not very it's very loose compared to the man lake. It's not high density. It does not like holes drilled in it. I used a heat gun actually to kind of seal the hole up after I drilled it. It's kind of a bit of a mess, but the larger washer snugs this pinwheel up a little bit. Now the pinwheel, obviously, you know, this is the entrance, but during transport you can move it here to the vent holes. That's one of the things I've been debating about. How much venting do these things need? Now it's only a cup of bees in here. Do they need a more venting? I'll have to just figure that out on my own. I might have to put a small, drill a small hole in and just glue a piece of number 8 screening on here just to give it. Oh, look at that! I had a customer already. But I think that these will work great. Rather than make that contraption that Man Lake has, sliding it up. That was just I opted not to that. And then I don't have anything on the bottom. I played around a little bit with coring a hole and putting a plug in there, but honestly, this insulation is so soft that when you core the hole, the plug goes in and it gets loose really, really quick, and it'll fall out. So that made it almost worthless to use as a place to fill a cup of bees in there. What I'm going to end up doing is just pulling one of my frames out, dumping the bees in, put the frame in, and away you go. But that was my winter project. I got them all painted up. Obviously I got solid colors here, but you can also, mix and match as you want. I can have a blue top with a green lid if I so chose. Doesn't matter. That way, each nuke is identified a little bit differently than the next one, rather than a solid color. And that's all there is to it. If you got any questions on, you know, how I put this together, you know, write it below. I'll be happy to answer any questions. This isn't a perfect project by any stretch of the imagination, but it'll offer be an opportunity to raise a few queens this next year. Stay tuned for part 2 of this series. It's going to be me in the shop making up all these frames and the backboards and the frame rails. You know, I'm not going to show you making 120 of these, but you'll get a good general idea on how I went about cutting all these and fabricating everything. So again, got any questions? Leave it below. Until next time, happy beekeeping, and remember, all beekeeping is local. Take care, guys.